I shot a video on my second channel, Today's Craftsman, with Jeff from Green Street Joinery. If you're not following that channel, I'll have a link to it down in the description below. And we shot a video on this blade. This is an ATB-R, and ATB-R stands for Alternate Top Bevel Raker. So the alternate top bevel is you'll have a tooth that's beveled this way, one that's beveled this way, and then one that has the flat ground, and that's designed to remove that little V shape in the middle. I first noticed this blade because Jeff was making some rips and I thought it just sounded sharp, and I wasn't familiar with this black blade. So we ended up shooting a video on it, and Jeff goes into more depth. We put it up against a Diablo similar blade, and I'll have a link to that video down in the description as well. But I thought I'd show you the three types of blades that I use here in this shop and explain why. And we'll get started with a ATB blade that I generally will use for ripping plywood. This is an 80 tooth alternate top bevel blade, great for working with plywood and melamine because the 80 teeth and the alternate top bevel will reduce tear out and chipping. You can see that this tooth is ground to the left, this one to the right, to the left, to the right throughout the blade. So great for working with sheet goods, but not very efficient for working with hardwoods, and not good for making joints like rabbet joints, dados, or lap joints. So I'll lower the blade and I'll show you a few examples. I've set the fence at 1/2 inch and I'll make one pass. Then I'll move the fence over and make 4 passes to cut a 1/2 inch dado. You can see how severe the V shape is from the ATB bevel. So you wouldn't want to use this blade for a lap joint or a rabbet joint or a dado. So now I'll go ahead and take that blade out of the saw and replace it with a blade with a flat ground tooth. This is a 24 tooth blade with a flat grind, designed for ripping, but really great for making joints because you're going to get that flat bottom at the bottom of your joint. This zero clearance insert is a nice addition to the saw also, and I'll have a link to this video on our Today's Craftsman channel. Before I make any cuts, we'll take a close look at the blade so you can see how each tooth has a flat grind. Again, I'll set the fence a 1/2 inch from the blade, make one pass, then move the fence over and cut the 1/2 inch dado. Here's a close look at the cuts. You can see how nice and flat they are. Really great for making your lap joints and your dados, especially if you compare it to the ATB grind here. So next we'll throw in an ATBR grind and I'll show you how that looks. Here's a close look at the ATBR blade. You can see in between the gullets, you've got 5 teeth. The first tooth has a flat grind. That's your raker tooth. Then a bevel to the left, bevel to the right, left, right, and another flat grind. And that's going to remove the V shape left by the alternate bevels. Before I make the next cuts, I want to remind you that I have a ton of woodworking project plans available on my website designed to help you build the furniture for your home. Everything from beginner projects to advanced projects, and they all have step-by-step video tutorials right here on YouTube designed to help guide you through the project. So I hope that you'll click on the link right here or down in the description below and let me help you with your next woodworking project. Again, I've set the fence at 1/2 inch. I'll make one pass, then move the fence over and cut a 1/2 inch dado. This blade has a little bit thinner of a curve, so I'll have to clean that out. I've got a chisel right here, and I'm not sure if this is the best way to do it, but yeah, that works. So you could just clean that out. You still have these, what some people describe as bat ears, where the bevel is a little bit higher than the raker cut, but not nearly as severe as just the ATB. And just here's another look at the flat grind. So that's a look at the 3 blades that I use here in the shop. People ask me all the time about what blade I'm using in my saw. And you might be asking yourself, do I really need 3 blades? And the answer is no. You can probably get away with just a good ATB-R blade like the one I have in here now. And this is not a sponsored video. I was just impressed with this blade. I've used it now for a little while, and I think for the money, it's pretty easy to recommend. This blade is a little bit under $60, maybe $59, and you can get a lot done with it. So I thought I would just show you these 3 blades and then maybe show you a few more cuts with this blade, and you can decide for yourself. So I'll get a piece of plywood. We'll make a cross cut. Maybe I'll make a lap joint and just kind of get a better feel if this is a blade that you would want in your shop. We'll start with a cross cut on a piece of 1/2 inch Baltic birch plywood, which you probably know is very prone to tear out. I'm really happy with that. I don't see any tear out on the top or on the bottom, and that's generally where you'll get it. We can take the offcut. And you can see that's a very nice cut. So now we'll go ahead and make a rip. Here's a look at the rip, and I think that's a really nice cut. You can see how tight the plywood laminates are. You're not seeing any blade marks. And if we take the offcut, got that little piece there at the end that you often get, we can put that up against it, and there's no variation. So again, I think that's a really nice cut. Now let's check it out on a piece of, looks like it's almost 8/4 white oak, a little shy of 8/4. And I'll rip just a 1/16 of an inch off so you can see how the blade is functioning as it rips through the board. A few blade marks, but I think that's a pretty nice rip. Now I'm going to rip maybe a 1/2 of an inch off, and we'll put the board back together and see what kind of variation we have. I'll take the offcut and put it against the board, and that matches up pretty nice. So I'm really happy with that. If this was a dull blade, you'd end up with deflection, which would create a bad joint. So imagine trying to glue up a tabletop where you don't have a nice edge. So that's pretty good. I think the last thing we'll do is cut a lap joint. I've adjusted the height of the blade and the fence to cut a lap joint on both of these boards. Looks like I had the blade set a little high because I've got this bit of a lip here. You can see the space in between the joints, so not completely flat, but really not too bad. And you could clean that up by running over the blade like this. I'm sure you've seen people do that. That works good. If it was a lap joint in the center of, let's say, a support, then it would be fine the way it is because nobody would ever see it. It really comes down to is if it was a joint like this, you would want to flatten that out a little bit more. But all in all, not too bad. I'm planning to continue to use this blade for the next couple of weeks or even months. So if you see me using it on upcoming project videos and you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. And if you'd like to know more about the blade, definitely check out the video that I shot with Jeff on today's Craftsman. Again, I'll have a link in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.